He was fast, huh? So, fabulous day, fabulous stuff, wonderful. So you talk about the law of attraction, but the construct under this is expansion. And why expansion?
Because expansion is necessary to existence.
And did you come forth because of that? Because why are you here?
Because we could not cease, we could not, because it's inevitable. It's a natural product of who we are.
So is exuberance the life force, and that stepping into that is what keeps us all in existence?
Exuberance is the indication that you're on the track of who you've become. Law of attraction is the nucleus that says that like unto itself is drawn. The combination of the contrast playing off of each other is what causes the new desire to be born. The new desire is the expansion. The exuberance is the coming into alignment with the expansion. And that is the quest of life. That is what the source that we are. In other words, you know how in your physical environment you come up with these things that you want. Well, what source wants is that joyous realization of expansion. So to try to define which part comes first, in other words, without contrast there cannot be expansion, and without expansion and getting up to speed with it there cannot be joy. So when source does as we're imploring all of you to do, when source puts joy as the dominant intention, then it all falls nicely into place. So because source so long there and so loving the sensation of that alignment keeps reaching for more, so much so that source sends pioneers like physical beings into more specific contrast for the purpose of finely tuning the next desire. In other words, in this world that you live in, you're not trying to figure out plumbing so much, but you're fine-tuning in so many other ways. Desire is still rocketing out of you as civilizations, as societies, as mass consciousness, and as individuals. So as those desires are shooting out of you in streams of requests, and non-physical who stands in readiness because of the absence of resistance, realizing the expansion immediately, we have our exuberance in the moment that you launch the rocket, and then we stand in that glorified, exalted state of joy, feeling the fullness of it and emitting it constantly. A joy goal, so to speak, a joy goal for you, a joy. We are offering the vibration of it, and when you get in the vicinity of it, in you come to experience it too. Joy is the quest of all consciousness, and freedom is the basis of all consciousness, and expansion is the result of all consciousness.
So what's in your vortex?
Joy.
More joy?
More.
And the only contrast that non-physical feels, that source feels, is the contrast that to put more joy there?
Joy and less joy. Look, joy and less joy. Joy and less joy. Our emotional scale doesn't go from joy to depression. Ours goes from joy to joy. But it's still contrast for us, and you still keep parlaying it into higher and higher frequencies because of the part you play in the expansion process.
It feels like a fabric. It feels like a three-dimensional fabric.
What does?
The whole process of asking, putting it in the vortex, catching up with it, the feeling of exuberance, the feeling of expansion. It feels like a three-dimensional fabric that just keeps flowing out into space or somewhere. And that What we do when we work like we've worked today is to like weave that fabric together.
This is co-creating at its best. In other words, you start with a basic understanding of things, and then you apply to it some specific details from your newfound place, and we go into a new place. And those of us who are here are feeling exhilaration beyond description at the newness of the discovery of this gathering. And you all have received it in different levels. But the most important thing to understand is, by your participation here today, regardless of what you consciously understand from it, your inner being moved to a new place. And there is a new radiation of that joy factor that's emanating. And as you find any reason to get into the vortex, you'll be there whether the understanding follows or not. But once you be there, the understanding will begin to follow. Life will say, here's an example of that, here's an example of that, here's an example of that, until our friend will say, it really was rotten that I didn't remember coming in, but oh boy, is it exhilarating to remember now I'm here.
Right, right. I so get we are all in this together, and this day was just such a brilliant